After my surgery, my family promised care, but went skiing in Colorado, leaving me without food or meds. My sister snapped. "Stop whining, we're not your nurses," I whispered. "Thanks for showing your true colors." 2 weeks later, I made a move. They never expected. Their pleas flooded my phone. "Talk to us, please." But I'd already started a new life. Their betrayal fuels me now, and their regrets change nothing. Honestly, I never thought I'd be writing this story, but here we are. Last month, I had major surgery. Nothing life-threatening, but serious. Enough that I needed someone around for at least a week afterward. The doctor was crystal clear about this. I couldn't lift anything over 10 pounds, had to take meds every 4 hours, and needed help getting around the house. My family seemed totally supportive when I scheduled the surgery. Mom was all, "Don't worry, honey, we'll take care of everything." My sister said she'd cleared her schedule. Even my dad, who's usually Mr. Work First, promised he'd be there. For the first time in years, I actually felt like I had a solid support system. The surgery went fine, and I came home groggy but optimistic. The first day was rough, pain meds making me nauseous, couldn't keep much food down, barely made it to the bathroom without help. But my family was right there, bringing me soup, helping me to the couch, making sure I took my medication on time. Day 2 rolled around, and that's when things started getting weird. I woke up around noon. The pain meds really knock you out, and the house was unusually quiet. Usually my family's pretty loud, you know? Always talking, watching TV, someone's always doing something. But this silence felt different. I called out for Mom, then my sister, then Dad. Nothing. I managed to shuffle to the kitchen, which honestly took way more effort than it should have. There was a note on the counter in my mom's handwriting. Emergency. Came up, back later. Rest up. Emergency? What kind of emergency? I tried calling all their phones. Straight to voicemail, every single one. By this point, I'm starting to panic a little because I'm supposed to take my next round of medication in 2 hours, and I have no idea where they put the bottles. I spent the next hour searching through cabinets, checking counters, even looking in the fridge because sometimes my mom puts things in weird places. Finally found them in a grocery bag on the dining room table, along with some crackers and a can of soup. Not exactly the home-cooked meals they'd promised, but whatever. That evening, still no word from anyone. I called my mom's work, thinking maybe something happened there. Her coworker told me she'd requested the day off. Called my sister's workplace too. Same story. By now, I'm getting seriously worried. Did something happen to Dad? Was there a family emergency I didn't know about? Around 10 p.m., my sister finally called back. I answered on the first ring. "Where is everyone? I've been trying to reach you all day." "Oh, we're fine," she said, and I could hear voices in the background, laughing, music. "We decided to take that ski trip to Colorado we've been planning. You know, the one we booked months ago?" I literally couldn't speak for a few seconds. "The ski trip? But I just had surgery yesterday. The doctor said I need help for at least a week." "Yeah, about that," she continued, and her tone shifted to something I'd never heard from her before. Cold, dismissive. "You're an adult. You can figure it out. We're not your personal nurses. But you promised, look, stop whining. We left you food and your medication. You'll be fine. The slopes are calling, and we paid for this trip already. Update. So I just confronted my family about abandoning me after surgery, and my sister literally told me to stop whining because they're not my nurses. Currently sitting here with a can of soup and my pain meds, wondering if I'm overreacting or if this is as messed up as I think it is. Has anyone else dealt with family who promised to help after surgery then just didn't? I was stunned. Absolutely stunned. Here I was, barely able to walk to the kitchen without getting dizzy, and they were off having the time of their lives in Aspen or wherever. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," I managed to say. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just a few days. You'll survive." "A few days? You said you'd be back later today." "Plans changed. We're here until Sunday. That's only like 5 more days." 5 more days. I was supposed to have a follow-up appointment with my surgeon in 3 days, and I couldn't drive yet. I was supposed to have someone check on my incision site daily. I was supposed to have meals prepared because I couldn't stand at the stove for more than a few minutes. How am I supposed to get to my doctor's appointment? Uber exists. Figure it out. And then she hung up on me. I sat there in my living room, holding the phone, trying to process what just happened. My own family, the people who'd raised me, who'd always been there for big moments, had literally abandoned me when I needed them most. And for what? A ski trip? The next few days were honestly a blur of pain, frustration, and the slow realization that I was completely on my own. I managed to reschedule my doctor's appointment for a video call instead of in person. Thank goodness for technology, right? The doctor wasn't thrilled about not being able to examine me directly, but when I explained my situation, he was understanding. I survived on crackers, canned soup, and whatever food I could get delivered. DoorDash became my best friend, though it was getting expensive fast. The hardest part wasn't even the physical stuff, it was the emotional hit. Every time I needed help with something basic, like reaching something from a high shelf or carrying laundry, I was reminded that the people who should have been there just weren't. My sister posted about 17 Instagram stories from their ski trip, pictures of them laughing on the slopes, fancy dinners, group shots in the lodge. Each one felt like a slap in the face. Here I was, struggling to shower without pulling my stitches, and they're living it up like nothing happened. By the time they came back, I'd had 5 days to think. 5 days to really understand how little I apparently meant to them when it came down to actual sacrifice. They'd had no problem making promises when it cost them nothing, but the moment their fun was on the line, I became disposable. Mom walked in first, carrying ski equipment and talking loudly about how amazing the powder was this year. She saw me on the couch and barely paused. "Oh, good, you're fine, see? We told you you'd be okay." My sister came in behind her, already talking about how they should plan another trip soon. Dad brought up the rear, looking a little sheepish but not saying anything. "How are you feeling, honey?" Mom asked, but she was already heading toward the kitchen, not really waiting for an answer. "I've been better," I said quietly. "Well, you look good. See, all that worrying for nothing." That's when it hit me. They genuinely thought what they'd done was okay. They'd convinced themselves that leaving me alone after major surgery was perfectly reasonable because I'd survived it, like the fact that I hadn't died made their abandonment acceptable. My sister plopped down in the chair across from me, still glowing from her vacation. "So what did you do all week? Catch up on Netflix?" I stared at her. "I spent most of it trying not to fall down in the shower." She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. You're fine." I had to eat crackers for dinner 3 nights because I couldn't stand long enough to make anything else. "You could have ordered pizza." I did order food. It cost me almost $200 because I had to get everything delivered. "Well, that's not our problem. We didn't ask you to order expensive food." That's when I said it. The words just came out before I could stop them. "Thanks for showing me your true colors." The room went quiet. Dad looked uncomfortable. Mom turned around from whatever she was doing in the kitchen. "What's that supposed to mean?" my sister asked. "Exactly what, it sounds like. I've learned something important about all of you this week." "Don't be ridiculous," Mom said, coming back into the living room. "We're family. Of course we care about you. Caring about someone and actually being there for them are 2 different things." "We left you everything you needed," Dad said finally. "You're being ungrateful." Ungrateful. That word hit me like a physical blow. Here I was calling them out for abandoning me when I was vulnerable, and I was being ungrateful. That night, after they'd all gone to their rooms, talking about how tired they were from traveling, I made a decision that would change everything. Update. My family came back from their ski trip acting like nothing happened, and when I told them I spent the week struggling to take care of myself, my sister actually laughed and said I was being dramatic. My mom called me ungrateful for pointing out that they abandoned me. I'm starting to think this goes deeper than just one bad week. Anyone else ever had their family show their true selves during a crisis? I started making phone calls the next morning. First, I called my aunt, my mom's sister who lives across the country. We'd always gotten along well, but I rarely talked to her because of the distance. When I told her what happened, there was this long silence on the phone. "They left you alone after surgery?" "Yeah, for a ski trip they apparently booked months ago." "Honey, I am so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known, I would have flown out to help you myself." That conversation lasted 2 hours. She told me things about my family that I'd never known, patterns of behavior, stories from when I was younger that I'd forgotten or never understood, how they'd always put their own wants first, how they'd always found ways to make other people's needs seem unreasonable. "You know," she said toward the end of the call, "I have a friend who runs a small marketing company in Portland. She's been looking for someone with your background. The cost of living is so much better there, and it's a beautiful city." Portland. I'd never seriously considered leaving my hometown, but suddenly it sounded like the most appealing thing in the world. Next, I called my college roommate who'd moved to Denver after graduation, then my cousin who lived in Austin, then a few other friends who'd scattered across the country after college. Every single one of them had the same reaction to my story: horror, followed by an immediate offer to help. "You could totally crash with me while you look for a place," my Denver friend said. "I've got a spare room, and the job market here is amazing." Within a week, I had 3 solid job prospects in 3 different cities, all far away from my family. I'd also had long conversations with people I'd lost touch with, and I'd remembered what it felt like to have people actually care about my well-being. The hardest part was keeping it all secret. I continued living with my family, acting normal, while secretly planning my escape. I started selling things I didn't need, quietly transferring money to a new account they didn't know about, researching apartments online late at night. 2 weeks after they'd returned from their ski trip, I got a job offer from a tech company in Seattle. Great salary, full benefits, start date in 3 weeks. I accepted immediately. The next morning at breakfast, I made my announcement. "I'm moving to Seattle in 2 weeks. I got a job there." You could have heard a pin drop. My sister was holding her coffee mug halfway to her mouth. Dad had stopped chewing his cereal. Mom just stared at me. "What do you mean moving?" Mom asked, finally. "I mean packing my stuff and relocating to Seattle permanently. But why? Everything you know is here." I looked around the table at all of them. "Is it though?" "Don't be hasty," Dad said. "Maybe we should talk about this." "I'm not being hasty. I've been thinking about this very carefully." "Is this about the ski trip?" my sister asked. "Because you're seriously overreacting to that." "No, this is about realizing that the people I thought would be there for me when I needed them most aren't actually there for me at all." "That's not fair," Mom said. "We're your family. Family is supposed to take care of each other. When I was vulnerable and needed help, you chose a vacation over me. That told me everything I need to know." "We didn't choose vacation over you," my sister protested. "We'd already paid for the trip. You could have gotten a refund, or rescheduled, or asked someone else to help me. You had options. You chose the one that was most convenient for you." The argument that followed was intense. Lots of raised voices, accusations flying both ways. They called me selfish, dramatic, ungrateful. They said I was punishing them for one mistake. They promised they'd do better in the future. But here's the thing. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. They'd already shown me that when push came to shove, I wasn't their priority. No amount of promises or apologies could change what I'd learned about them that week. I moved to Seattle exactly 3 weeks later. My aunt flew in to help me pack and drive cross-country with me. It was one of the best weeks of my life, honestly. We stopped at national parks, stayed in quirky motels, had deep conversations about family and life and what it means to really be there for someone. Update. I took the job in Seattle and just finished my cross-country move with my aunt's help. My family is absolutely losing it, calling me selfish and dramatic for punishing them over one mistake. But here's the thing. When someone shows you who they really are, don't you believe them? My new coworkers already feel more like family than my actual family ever did. Starting to think this was the best decision I ever made. Seattle has been incredible. My coworkers are amazing. When I mentioned I was new to the city and didn't know anyone, 3 different people immediately invited me to weekend activities. My boss checked in with me during my first week to make sure I was settling in okay. Even the barista at the coffee shop near my apartment remembers my order now. It's funny how quickly you can build a support system when you're around people who actually want to support you. My family has been calling constantly. At first it was anger, voicemails about how I was being ridiculous, how I needed to come home and stop this nonsense. Then it shifted to guilt trips. Messages about how much they missed me, how the house felt empty without me, how I was breaking mom's heart. Now, 3 months later, it's shifted to panic. Please call us back, my sister's latest voicemail said. We're worried about you. We just want to talk. My mom left a message yesterday that was 20 minutes long, mostly her crying and talking about all the things she wished she'd done differently. How she realizes now that they made a mistake. How sorry she is. Dad's messages are shorter but somehow more desperate. I know we messed up. Please give us a chance to make it right. The thing is, I'm not angry anymore. Those first few weeks, in Seattle, I was furious. I'd find myself ranting to my new coworkers about what my family had done, how betrayed I felt. But somewhere along the way, the anger faded into something else. Relief, maybe? Or just peace. I have a life here now. A really good life. I joined a hiking club and made friends who text me to make sure I got home safe after we hang out. I found a church where people actually seem to care about each other's well-being. I'm dating someone who brings me soup when I'm sick without being asked. Last week, I got a promotion at work. When I told my team, they insisted on taking me out to celebrate. We went to this little seafood place on the waterfront, and as I sat there laughing with these people who'd only known me for 3 months, but were genuinely excited about my success, I realized something. This is what family is supposed to feel. Like, my actual family keeps calling, texting, even sending letters to my apartment. They've started reaching out to my aunt asking her to intervene. She called me last week. They're really struggling with this, she said. Your mom especially. I'm sorry they're struggling, but I'm not responsible for managing their emotions, about the consequences of their actions. That's very mature of you. I'm proud of how you've handled all this. I learned from the best, I told her. Thank you for showing me what real support looks like. Yesterday, my sister sent me a long email. She went through everything that happened, acknowledging each thing they'd done wrong. She talked about how she'd never really thought about how her actions affected other people. How seeing me leave had made her realize that there were consequences to treating people poorly, even family members. She ended the email with, I know you probably won't forgive us, and I understand why, but I want you to know that losing you has been the biggest wake-up call of my life. I'm working on being a better person because of what happened. I just wish I'd figured it out before I lost my sister. I read that email 3 times. For a moment, I felt that familiar tug, the urge to call her back, to forgive and forget, to try to rebuild what we'd had. But then I thought about my life here, my job that I love, my friends who show up for me, my apartment with the view of the sound, my hiking boots by the door ready for the next adventure. I thought about the person I've become in these 3 months, stronger, more independent, clearer about what I deserve from relationships. Their betrayal, as painful as it was, led me to this life, a life where I'm surrounded by people who value me not just in words, but in actions. People who would never dream of abandoning me when I'm vulnerable because they understand that caring for someone sometimes requires sacrifice. I haven't responded to my sister's email yet. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday we'll find a way to have some kind of relationship again. But it will never be the same as it was before, because I know now what I'm worth. I know what real love and support look like, and honestly, I've never been happier. My phone is still buzzing with their calls and texts. Talk to us, please, they beg. But I've already started my new life, and their regrets, while maybe genuine, don't change what they chose when it mattered most. Their betrayal showed me who they really were. But more importantly, it showed me who I could become, and that person deserves so much better than what they offered. Some bridges are meant to be burned. Some distances are meant to be permanent. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who set you free to find the life you were actually meant to live. I'm living that life now, and no amount of their guilt or regret could make me trade it for what I had before.